Let me start with just a slight overview of Lightspeed first, if I can. Before I became a Lightspeed customer, I didn't really know a lot about the size and scale that Lightspeed was operating at, but we operate globally, but primarily across the US and the UK and in Scandinavian countries. But we also have an increasing body of international schools working through our 41 countries to date. A lot of those large school districts and large local authorities and multi-academy trusts in the UK help us to really get that number up. But we're protecting somewhere in the region of 25 million students today across somewhere between 28 and 30,000 schools that we work with. That means we've kind of seen it all to a degree. We've seen every setup, and we support schools and school districts in the US of 200,000 to 300,000 students, and we support schools with 250 pupils in some cases as well, and we've seen everything in between. We don't just talk about web filtering, although it is something that we're known for, that we've been doing for 25 years now at Lightspeed, but we have a range of 5 solutions. I'm going to talk to you today about 2 because they really impact on the safeguarding aspect that we're looking at. I'm going to talk to you about the web content filter and about our proactive alerting tool. Those to me make up about 85 to 90% of what we should be doing from a safeguarding perspective. We're a bit time limited here, talk a little bit more about classroom management and the role of the teacher in sort of that direct safeguarding space. That would sort of complete the safeguarding bubble. Then we also offer an MDM to be able to configure and manage iOS and Mac devices, and a digital insight tool, which is providing data statistics and analytics based on how software and how the devices are being used, so you can really understand the usage of digital technology across your entire school estate to evaluate from a data privacy or from a software license ROI perspective just exactly how your software is being managed. But as I say, today I'm really going to focus on filter and alert, and really talk in similar range to what I was seeing in the comments, things coming in from Charlotte, like the analogy around driving. My view of what we're doing here with digital safeguarding before talking about products is that we're trying to identify opportunities. Charlotte defines it as active support. I'm calling them teachable moments, opportunities for staff to intervene when a student, a young person who is learning their way in life, steps off the golden path and visits something that they shouldn't do or does something that they shouldn't be. Do we have a good way to capture that information? Do we have a good way to funnel them back into the right place and ultimately have a conversation to make sure that we are providing the student with the knowledge and the learning from that opportunity that we've got? I think that's very, very important. And if you think about that golden path for a second, and if we potentially make it too narrow and we overblock the internet, sometimes we can actually find that we're not putting up really strong guardrails. We're actually just over shielding. And we're keeping our students away from the real realities of the internet. Now, please don't misinterpret what I'm saying. I'm not suggesting by any stretch of the imagination that we should give them free, unfettered access. We should definitely, of course, be protecting an awful lot of the harmful content that's out there on the internet from our students. But it's a real fine balance. I find in my experience that by having proactive tools to be able to identify when a student is most likely to be at harm's risk allows us to widen that path a little bit and open up a little bit more of the internet than I would have been able to do previously if I didn't have that type of tool in place. So that's some of the challenge questions and some of the ideas and the premise, I guess, that's floating around my head as I talk about Lightspeed's actual solutions, of which I'll talk about filter first. And as I say, just a couple of main features to talk about and sort of premises of how we built the tool before I show it to you behind the scenes. The biggest win that when we see people wanting to come and work with Lightspeed from a filtering perspective, one of the biggest ones is about the reporting engine that sits behind. It's fully cloud-based. It's accessible anywhere. Every page loads in just a matter of seconds. Every report is there with maybe a 60-second delay from when a student visited a website. It'll be available in the reporting platform. the feedback we have from IT directors, the feedback we get from student counselors and from safeguarding leads, the feedback we get from teachers is that it's very clickable. Everything can be clicked on, can be manipulated, you can dig more deeply. It's designed to present you that different layer, the different layers of data that you could potentially want to see. And seeing those powerful reports and being able to manipulate them in an easy, intuitive way is something that we don't want to understate, particularly as you want to not be the person solely responsible for checking these, and you want to get your education staff in and reviewing the information that's pertinent to them. We also talk about the database, another key aspect. We have been developing the categorizing database for over 20 years. I think it was one of the first tools that we settled in. We've categorized millions upon millions of websites into over 100 categories, giving a real broad view of the internet, and allowing you therefore to take that broad view and the broad categories that you're seeing. You're seeing a screenshot there of how we've broken down the education categories, for example. You get that breadth, and that allows you to be precise. That means that you have much more granular control, where you can turn on and off certain categories. Some of the examples you can see there, for example, the idea of how you're delivering sex education at the appropriate levels. Perhaps for many times you want to leave it switched off and then turn it on just for a period of time for some of your elementary school or primary school learners, whereas at high school it needs to be turned on more ubiquitously. Or there's categories in there that, yes, define computing games, then they define educational games, and then there's a category even on top of that if you're looking at an esports program. That's sort of another good example of how the category database is trying to support what you're doing in education. And I should say that we solely support education and build this database for the use of schools, and is leveraging those 25 million students of the websites that people are visiting, students are visiting, to be able to further refine every day. And it's 3 people's full-time job to make sure that the database is in the right shape. I think it was mentioned in the comments as well around YouTube being a bit of an issue. We know it's a major part of teaching and learning, and YouTube give us restricted mode. And yeah, you can toggle it on, but if you're looking closely at the screenshot there, you see actually it's turned off. Why would it be turned off? Well, we have our own version of that we call Smart Play. We are using the same sort of categorization, but for YouTube videos. We're looking at caption files and screenshots and making our decision as to whether this video has educational merit. And again, because that's coming into our hands, we also have the ability then to provide custom allow and custom block lists, and to give the granularity of control for YouTube back to you, rather than it being just one toggle of restricted mode. And again, this is a major thing that people want us to look at. And then lastly, this is a major thing that I will probably touch on in the comments at the end, particularly when we come across BYOD, and the idea of adding value to the parents and the parents community. Providing control on a device that goes home to a parent, it does go a long way to supporting a parent's digital skills that they have to be able to be a digital parent. We can provide the web activity log of their child so they can see what that student has done. We can also provide control that they can turn on and off the internet. They can turn on and off certain parts of the internet whilst leaving access to educational content, all controlled via the Lightspeed portal, and provided to parents. This is a very common way that we see that idea of give and take. The school will take control of the device to be able to manage it and provide control, but we're also giving responsibility and we're giving functionality back to the parents to be able to control that device at home and get an extra layer to support their digital citizenship efforts. Now, I've kept it very high at eye level with some of the functionalities and features thus far. I just did want to dig into one bit of technology. I appreciate my audience are a very clever and technical bunch. When we think about devices that are owned by a school themselves, that are institution owned, we know we want to protect them everywhere, and that's a big challenge. Lightspeed's approach to this is as a cloud-based provider, no longer with those physical appliances, is to install something on the device that we can. We call it a smart agent, and it means that it will be installed and allows protection to be everywhere that that device goes. A BYOD device, that is still an option. We can work with you. We have lots of schools that have a managed BYOD program, either enrolling it into an MDM in a soft scenario, or manually installing the smart agents onto those devices. That is a thing. Or you can see the option there for BYOD in the sort of more top right, where we also do have a network level virtual appliance. We provide the software, you provide the hardware or the virtualized hardware to be able to run and to get that benefit of all of the categorization and all of the other aspects I've discussed, but more thinking like an appliance. That is also an option as well. So just wanted to touch on some of the technology bit to scratch that itch for my audience today. I can see some of the questions coming in around the words and detectors list, and even Mutil's question around Workspace. Those aspects are covered under Lightspeed Alert in a really interesting way as I finish up this last few presentations. I'm not going to hit you hard with a lot of statistics, but I do like to call out the need here, that going beyond web filtering and just making sure that you've got your allows blocks is achieving a bigger goal. The goal that you have as someone who's working in an educational institution. Our young people are in a really poor spot in many ways. And unfortunately, they don't always exhibit those behaviors. They don't always show their emotions. They don't always confide and have the confidence and the ability to come forward and get the help that they need. I find personally that digital technology lowers that barrier, and we do find many more scenarios in a tool like Lightspeed Alert that where a young person shows a vulnerability or shows that they may be entering signs of crisis and gives us a chance to intervene. And to me, that's worth it, to being able to find one student and to get them the help that they need. Always, when I was in your shoes, justified the use of a tool like this to be able to get that depth. The idea there is, as I say, to really identify those students who are potentially in crisis or heading that way, but before they do something physical, before they do something larger. And you can see from the screenshots, we're looking at this in a comprehensive way across, yes, Microsoft 365, if you use that in addition to Workspace, but fully across the Google Workspace suite as well. We're using AI to analyze what's happening. We're using machine learning models to make sure that we're not just working on individual words and phrases. We can do individual words and phrases as well. Picking up and Tadayenda's comment as well around filtering offensive words in other languages. Filter can do that in the tool there, but Alert is using these machine learning models that are trained in English and Spanish today. But we're continuing to increase the number of languages that Lightspeed Alert is using for those AIs. And it really is a comprehensive set of coverage. I wanted to include this table to show you some of the depth that we're going to. We've got an agent that we install on the device. So everything that's typed on the device on the web is going to be covered. That allows access to those bits. But we also have an API integration. This speaks to Charlie's question earlier about your Google Workspace account. There's this idea that a school who provide Chromebooks, for example, they have school-owned Chromebooks that go home, they must protect them. But you have a piece of school technology that goes home regardless of your approach to the device. Your Google Workspace account is a managed space, is a managed platform owned and operated by the school. And yes, there are certain tools within Google Workspace themselves that will help moderate and help support some of those aspects. I know will be familiar with them. But in terms of really viewing those truly with a safeguarding lens, Lightspeed Alert does that for you. You can see that we're getting into those documents, we're getting into Gmail, we're getting into Google Drive from an image scanning perspective as well, to be able to give a comprehensive view across what's happening. being able to understand what images have been uploaded, being able to understand if there's perhaps some bullying going on in comments or text that's written in a Google Doc but quickly deleted, all within a class. And for those to be surfaced is some powerful opportunities and powerful teachable moments, if I make reference back to the beginning. And all of that is designed to allow you to see the full picture of exactly what's happening, again, like our reporting engine from Filter, in a really clean and accessible way. Most people, and then I'll finish the sort of functionality overview here, but most people are a little bit worried when they think that this could happen at any time. And they worry a little bit about some of what this might uncover from a workload perspective. You know, there's often a limitation of internal staff. We've got you covered here as well. We have a team, I think there's 13 of them today, spread across the globe, who are providing 24/7, 365-day coverage, where that AI, those machine learning models, identify a high risk to a student. That will be funneled through our human review team, who are able to, specially trained to be able to analyze and go, is this something that the IT director or the safeguarding lead needs to know about maybe tomorrow, because it's pretty important, but it's not, nothing's going to happen until the morning type thing. Or indeed, is there an imminent threat that this young person is going to do something that's going to harm them or harm others? And in that scenario, they would be escalating through a call tree to be able to get the right person's eyes on this case in this particular scenario, and to really sort of be an additional part of your safeguarding team. So with that, I'm going to hop over really quickly. I only just want to show you just the bare bones of 2 or 3 slides, or 2 or 3 parts of the actual platform. But I know everyone always likes to see a little behind the scenes when we're here. This is me logged in. The only thing to get here thus far was to do single sign-on using my Google Workspace account, giving me the right type of access. I'm a super admin, of course, so I can see everything. But if this was just for a certain year group or the safeguarding member of staff for a certain campus, they would only see the statistics that they would need to look at. I've told you everything is clickable. If I go into some of the reports, that still embodies to be true. I come in here. This gives me a broad overview here I'm seeing of a day's worth of traffic, but in just a couple of clicks, I can change that to be showing me 7 days worth of traffic, or indeed 30 days if I wanted to do that. Top activities is a big fan favorite, I guess. Being able to understand how the browsing activity rolls up into our category headers. So 71% in education is a really strong figure. But perhaps I'm a little bit more concerned. I thought social media was blocked on our site. Let's delve in. All of these, as I say, are very clickable. Each category has this report below them, so I can understand how it's being made up. Quite a few visits to facebook.com. Interesting. Okay, I'm going to delve in again. I'm going deeper. I can see which class groups the browsing of social media is coming from, but I'm more interested to delve directly into Facebook. So I click in. If there was different sub pages at facebook.com/ that were viewed, I'd be able to understand them here, but I'm more interested in getting directly to the users. Who are these 10 students? Lightspeed knows all around the users that we've got. We've authenticated with Google Workspace to be able to pull in the OU structures and all of the users, and I know who they are. And of course, I can click on each of those students, and I'm now seeing all of those similar type reports and reporting, but now just for Rachel, just for her and her particular browsing. I can do the same type of high-level overview based on categories. I can view her full history, or a particular favorite with IT staff is that we have a full rules checker in here. The rules can get quite complex across all of those categories. To be able to understand what Rachel's experience should be from her different memberships and her different groups that she's in, I could understand and break down. I could search a particular website if there was an issue, or here I can see that safe search is turned on at the middle school level, but verbatim search is enabled a little bit deeper than that at our individual math class level. Whereas image search from Mills, that's at the top level of the tenancy, inherited by all. and giving you that understanding for all of Lightspeed's categories as they're broken down here, and what would be allowed and blocked on an individual student basis is a pretty neat feature. Speaking of those rules, again, delving in here to show you just how those are set and configured. We can choose them at any step in the group switcher. So I said we're mirroring all of the OUs. Here they are. This would be synced in directly with from Google Workspace, and I can open any of these groups and then set policies at that particular level if I'd like to. And those policies are quite extensive. We can create custom categories. We can choose whether a category is enabled for lockouts, or indeed if it's overridable. So you'll see here as I come across some of these sites, so that I'm not particularly sure why in my demo tenancy you would necessarily want this, but family life and for cooking websites appear to be blocked. Not sure why, it is just for demo. But by having that overridable column ticked, it would mean that a teacher can provide an override code. So if they wanted to access a cooking resource during a class that was blocked and they hadn't maybe tested it beforehand, they can enter that override code. It's fully audited in the system, but we get a visibility that and then the teacher is able to continue their learning and teaching scenarios. Just going to hop into the after school rules to show you one aspect if a device goes home, just exactly what that might mean. We're able to set that on a time schedule or by IP address. And again, we can nest different time schedules if it's important to you. We can choose what happens, whether we want filtering to continue, in which case we can reset all of our policies to be perhaps more open, if that's more appropriate when things go home. Or we can also choose that we're not going to filter at all when the device goes home. Perhaps that's more akin to your policies. Most common setting is that we would have filtering turned on across our schools. But a common one we see is that actually reporting is disabled. So students still gets the guardrails, they still get the safety of parts of the internet being filtered, but because this is happening outside of school hours from a family home, we don't want those filtering logs necessarily to flow in, and that's something that we provide functionality with there as well.